Kia ora koutou, ko Victoria McLennan toka ingoa. Welcome to Bridging the Gap, a podcast that celebrates diversity here in Aotearoa, New Zealand's digital technology industry. I'm the CEO of IT Professionals, Te Pou Hangarau Ngaio. From developers to programmers, product managers to designers, this field is filled with a wide range of individuals who bring unique perspectives and skills to their mahi. Join us as we delve into the stories and experiences of those who strive to bridge the gap and foster a more inclusive and thriving digital technology community here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. This week I'm joined by the fabulous Selva, who I've known for quite a long time, so I think we're going to have quite a bit of fun with this. Kia ora, Selva.
Kia ora, Victoria. Thank you for having me in this podcast. I've known you for a long time, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to be fun to share about what I've done and my story with folks. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, how about we start with you sharing what you do with our listeners, your elevator pitch, or however you describe what you do at the moment.
So I do multiple things. But at this moment, my focus or the attention that I have is towards the job I do with MYOB, an Australia, New Zealand based SaaS company. And I do work as a social and community support manager in their digital experience team. But other than that, I also run a small consultancy called Community Simplified, which is helping industries and businesses to build communities so that they can grow their tribe. I come from a really, really small, tiny town in India, and it's been an amazing journey so far. So I'm happy to share about my learnings and experience so far with all of the listeners here today.
Awesome. That's fabulous. Well, I know that you haven't been at MYOB forever, and you've had a very varied career, and it took you a bit of a pathway to get to this phase. And I know that you're really passionate about this community management and productizing community management. So do you want to tell people a little bit about how you got here and how you realized that this is what you're passionate about?
Sure. So, honestly speaking, for me, I work for a purpose. So any problem that solves or helps people to make their lives better, I want to participate. It doesn't matter that I do 2-3 multiple jobs at the same time, or volunteer with multiple organizations to contribute my time. So that way, I was always in the community building space ever since I started my career, particularly helping nonprofit communities, building a community of volunteers to help, but those were on the ground, or what we call in industry terms as offline community building, where you directly work with people in real life. However, with the changes in the technology and the enablement of the internet and the world getting connected and becoming a one place, the digital market starts to boom, and many companies and industries and businesses start to build and invest in communities online, where they build their product around the community, or introduce their product to the community and then offer support to each other to make sure that in what ways they could explore the new product and stuff. So in 2017, after moving to New Zealand, I really wanted to contribute and make a difference in the climate change and sustainability space. And of course, that was directly going to contribute to the community on a long run. But then I also had an opportunity to work with building communities online for this US-based company called Cora. And I being passionate about one, people, and also two, my native language, I thought that's a good opportunity to actually start. And that's where I entered into the internet online sort of community building space. And once I entered that, I started to discover what other people are doing in the space. And community industry is one of the most helpful industries ever, because everyone wants to learn from each other, share their knowledge, and eventually started to grow my network. Last year, I happened to find this job at MYOB. So I've always wanted to work for a company based in Australia, New Zealand, helping the local communities here. So I thought that this would be a good opportunity and jumped on board. So I've had a different career transitions throughout, from being a chemical engineer, to teaching in academic institutions, to working in nonprofits, to jumping to a climate change and sustainability, and now in community industry. But I think that mostly the skills that you learn throughout are like transferable, and it's just that you try to find the niche of like what connects you with the role that you're doing, and what sort of like change that you're making, one to the community and two personally to yourselves. And if you see a value addition in this both of the things, then I think that you are making a significant contribution.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I love the way that you describe that for you personally, what was really important. So because you're not in a traditional tech role, and this podcast is all about showcasing the diversity of the roles that people have, you've probably come across a few challenges that you've needed to overcome. Can you tell us about one of those and what you learned, and any advice that you've got for anyone else who's not in a traditional tech role?
Yeah, sure. So see, having like an engineering background, or like for that matter, in today's world, like anyone who is in any of this industry are always like, connected with the real world through computers and internet of things and technology, right? So you're always like somewhere like connected to that. But I mean, it's not necessary. One thing I learned, that it's not necessary that you need to know to learn to write codes, or like know the languages that are like today there to build you softwares and tools. But there are like so many other technologies and no code tools that one could actually start to learn and connect. And then you consistently seek to upgrade the knowledge and upgrade the skills that you've got, right? So once you determine that what is your goal and what sort of like change that you want to make, then I think that you yourself will put you in a path to get there. And in this process, you'll start to discover like new things and tools and technologies, and you start to learn. The only thing is that having that open mindset of like discovering things, and not telling you that you don't have that skills or like the knowledge to do this part of the job. I again go back to my basic principles. Like, we all were born the same. Like, we didn't know anything when we were born. Like, we all learned things the way we grow. And typically the community and the culture and the place where you grow up makes a significant difference in the thought process and the way you start to think and frame an opinion about the world. But once you start to open up your mind and see the world in a very different and a broader perspective, there are so many things so many people do. And I always put myself in the shoes of others and think that if this person can do this thing, like, why can't I? And all you need to do is to make that small investment of time, and start to learn things, and also discover that whether you're finding it interesting and adding value to whatever you're doing. Like, and as much as it's important to learn things, it is also important to unlearn certain things, because those are the barriers that you create for yourself to achieve whatever you wanted to do. So yeah, I think that, I mean, it's pretty hard for it, like anyone who has learned something for like 10 long years, 20 long years, to actually drop that and shift to others. But I don't think it's impossible. It's a little harder for anyone to transition, but I don't think that's like a big barrier or like big restriction that you have in today's world, given the fact that everything happens online, and the world is moving towards like digital, and it's going to become like more digital. Like 20 years ago, or like when I was a child, TV was the only medium of communication for me through the world. Like today I have like 7 different gadgets around me to communicate with people, right? So things change, and I think it's important for us to also like change along with the world, and pick up like the new skills and knowledge that we could potentially gain.
That's great advice. So since you have been through these different iterations, what was that moment where you went, yes, community building is where I want to be? What was it that really did it for you?
See, I love people. Okay. I consider myself as someone who is interested to talk and explore and understand people. And if I go back and again look at like the way I started my nonprofit career, particularly building communities, I never know that I was actually building a community of volunteers. When I did that, all I was wanted to do is to create a network, or like, create a group of people who would like come and passionately contribute towards like growing the world to become a better place, or like helping each other, etc. But then eventually when you put a term towards that, like it looks like interesting that you did something without knowing that you're doing that. And all of that because that it's that internal calling of you wanting to like work with people, help people. And for me, like community gives me that sort of like the need that I have, and to satisfy that my desire of like staying connected with people and then wanting to help each other, networking, pointing right people to the right direction, etc. So why don't you actually take that and apply that to an industry that is needing to build a community around a specific product or like specific service that they're doing. So it is the skills and knowledge and the passion and the desire that you have. You take that and then put that and in collaboration with someone else trying to do something, and then you're trying to kind of like finding a bridging the gap again, like to put it that way, and it's a win for you, and it's a win for them, and it's a win for the community as well overall. So in that ways, like if you see, like I have now built a group of friends across the world. Like if I go to any new country, I can say that I know like some people there who are deeply connected with the way I work, and I understand them. So the world is a beautiful place where like we have so many diverse culture, group of people who think, act, and do things in a different way. But the end results is the same. Like everyone wants a better world, everyone wants to be happy, everyone wants to be kind and help each other. So community introduces that tribe to me, and that is something that I think that made me choose that I wanted to be in the community space.
If you're an IT professional or aspiring to be one, we encourage you to check us out. As New Zealand's only digital technology industry body who is focused exclusively on the people who work in this industry, we provide a range of resources, events, and networking opportunities to help you grow your career and stay up to date with the latest trends and technologies. Visit our website at itp.nz or flick us an email, info@itp.nz.
Thanks, Selva. That's awesome. Well, on that note, I'm going to ask you a gnarlier question. If you could invent something to solve a really wicked problem, what problem would you want to solve?
In today's world, if you see the digital technology actually should be enabling people, and I think we still have a long way to go. In a population of like more than 7 billion people across the globe, I don't think internet and digital technology solves problem for most of the people who definitely need that, particularly in the poorer countries, particularly people who don't have access to internet and technology. So I think that there is a lot of digital inequality that is existing, and perhaps like most of us are like not aware of it, because like we live in our own world where we are like super connected. We try to learn from each other, and there are like several initiatives that have come up to solve like super difficult problems and make it easier. But somewhere down the line, I think the designing of most of this initiatives is more focused around people who have access to the internet, or like people who know about all of these things. So I think that there is still a long way to go in bringing that sort of like human touch to digital world, and also like reaching out to the entire like world's population, and making sure that everybody has like equal access to this. So I think that that's still a bigger problem to solve, and I'm pretty sure that with the technologies that are like coming up, and the rate of growth that we are seeing today, it should be like super soon. So I'm quite positive about that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So what do you see happening in the technology that's coming up, and how do you see these new emerging technologies kind of changing the face of the industry and solving that problem that you're describing?
Yeah. See, one thing that I think has helped or like is emerging is automation. And in today's world, like the task that I thought could take like much more time to do in my time, like 10 years ago, is happening within like nanoseconds or like in microseconds, right? So things are like getting faster. The way machine learning and automation are growing is like really one like interesting and also too scary because it's growing like too fast than what we could actually take in. So I think that these technologies are like gonna play a big role in the future. Even in the community industry, like we have like chatbots and stuff that are helping in, jumping in and answering questions to people as if they are like a fellow human, right? So so these are something that we wouldn't have thought of like 10 years ago. And also the electrification, particularly wanting to get into like electric modes of transport to make sure that we have like that sort of like a sustainable future that also helps us to solve the climate change problem. That's something that I'm like rooting for, and I also think that could solve like a lot of problem across the world. And the other thing is that most of these things are like also becoming open source. Like we are slowly starting to move away from that sort of like an intellectual property owning sort of like model to enabling more people to access the resources that are available, which I think is like one of the primary drivers for making an equitable digital world for everyone. Those are the things that I think are going to be the future. So yeah.
You live in Ōtautahi, Christchurch, which is the perfect place for electric vehicles, electric scooters, electric bikes, isn't it?
Yeah. So Ōtautahi, Christchurch has always been like innovative in that space. Like, and I also love the local community here. Like, everyone is like helpful, and we know each other, and we come each other to share our thoughts, knowledge, and problem. And again, like I come back and say the same thing. Between in the sustainability industry as well, and in the community industry as well. Like we don't see each other as competitors, like because I think that model of like I hiding something from you has changed now, that I am helping you with something that I know, so that you can build on top of that and give me something better. So that's changing, and I love Christchurch for that.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Right, I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions now.
Sure.
If you had to choose between having a robot assistant running around after you or an AI virtual assistant taking the pain out of your workload, which one would you pick and why?
That's a great question. I would have loved to say that I wanted a robot assistant, but I'll go with the AI virtual tool, because I think that I want to have like more people and human connection than a robot connection. But the AI virtual tool solving my problems and doing my work, I would love that.
Excellent. And then what's the best tech gadget you have in your life?
It's a pretty tough question, but I would go and say that the Apple MacBook is one of the best tech gadgets I have had, because the quickness and also the longevity of the machine and the way it processes things, I thoroughly love that. Yeah.
I love the fingerprint scanner too.
Yeah.
Unlock mine, I'd have to say.
Yeah, actually, yes.
And what's the worst tech gadget that you've got or had in the past?
Okay, I'm going to get some backlash for this. Maybe it's going to be an unpopular opinion. I don't like iPhone. I think that it's not a user-friendly one. Or like particularly, at least for me, who don't have that much of like patience and time to invest and learn a new thing. So I would go and say iPhone is the gadget that I don't like.
So you're in the Apple universe, but you don't like the phone. Interesting one. And what's your top tech tip that you give to people?
Top tech tip that I think would be to be staying in the knowledge, because the world is evolving so fast that you always need to be on your toes to know what's working and what's not working. And I think that being open to, or like being a part of these tech communities, or like, reading on Twitter, Reddit, those are my, pathways to understand what's the new emerging technology and stuff. So be on your toes, consistently look out for things that are happening, and be agile to change. And if you're not, then like you're outdated.
So you just opened the door for my next question, because you are on Twitter and Reddit. Doom scroll or shut it all down? Which one do you do?
Used to be a doom scroll, but I've now become like a shut it all person. So like at 5:30 sharp, shut my laptop, go get the book and read it.
Good on you. Excellent. And my last question, what makes you happy?
I'm generally a happy person. I think happiness is a decision that you make. You can be happy with whatever you've got, because I have actually, if you go back to my story, like I come from a really small town. I also come from a really poor family. So I've had like and seen like most of the difficult times in my life, and I've also seen like most of the beautiful times in my life. So I think it is accepting the state of what you are in at that time, and I think that brings happiness. But overall, like if you ask me that what would make me like super happy, is like to have like an equitable and just world, and make sure that everybody has access to everything, and everything happens on a fair and equitable basis. But overall, like I think I choose my happiness, and I want to be happy, and I'm happy. So I think it's a decision, that happiness is something that I have control on myself. So
that is such great advice. And I know that you're out there making that happen, the equitable world, because of all, we didn't even get onto all of the volunteer things that you do and donate your time. So thank you. So before we go, if anyone wants to learn more about your mahi or what you do, how can they, what do you want to tell them? How do they get hold of you? Websites?
Sure. See, I don't have a website, but people are open. Can connect to me via my LinkedIn. I can actually share the LinkedIn profile, which you can share it via the podcast link. And I'm also available on Twitter. And these are the two spaces where like I'm quite active on. So if you want to connect, I can immediately connect. And then I'm happy to share my email. We can set up a one-on-one call if anyone wants to talk in further detail and want to understand what I do. I'm happy to always jump on a call and talk to them.
And I can plug that Selva is always there and responsive and gives great advice. So thank you so much for your time today. That was fantastic. Really appreciate you having you on the Bridging the Gap podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria. Like, I really appreciate that, you gave me this opportunity to come and talk about what I do with the community of the listeners of the Bridging the Gap podcast. So I'm quite sure that, it would have been helpful for others. And I'm happy to also learn from others through this.
Awesome. Thanks. Ka kite.
Yeah, ka kite.
Kia pai tō rā. Thank you for listening. Join me at the next episode of Bridging the Gap.